Why are illegal immigrants demonized, but not the companies who hire them or the economies who rely on their labor? Big business will always look for cheap labor. If you have to hire Americans to pick the fruits, veggies, you have to pay them a lot more. And then comes healthcare FICA taxes. It's a practice that's been done longer than any of us have been born. I can't remember who or what politician said we should punish the business for hiring them. This will get downvoted because people like to see the world through only their experiences and what they want to see. But in my experience, people feeling that way unevenly definitely isn't common among blue-collar workers in my area. If they don't like illegal immigration, then they also don't like companies people skirting rules to employ them, especially if it directly affects their own manual labor and what they can charge for it. Poor people bad, rich people good. Because crying about illegal immigration isn't actually about illegal immigration. For one, it's a lie that most of the border crossings are illegal. They are done without visas, but they are perfectly legal according to international law. Many of the people crossing are asylum seekers, fleeing terrible violence in their home countries. You literally cannot claim asylum until you're on the soil of your target country, and you don't need a visa to cross or ask for asylum. For two, it's just a bugbear that people are concocting as the core issue driving the US election. One side is trying to make people afraid of those people coming to steal your jobs and murder your kids, so you better vote correctly or else. I'm not saying that no asylum seekers are ever violent, but a lot of American women have been murdered by white citizens too. It's political rhetoric, a useful device for right-wing politicians to strike fear in their audience, to lure their audience to the polling booth by pandering to their worst prejudices. Meanwhile, right-wing politicians and their billionaire benefactors are the ones profiting the most from a cheap and desperate labor pool. Cause they lobby Congress to look the other way. As long as the bribes campaign contributions keep lining politicians' pockets, nothing changes. Who isn't demonizing companies for terrible practices? Reddit is practically built on calling out companies for unethical practices. Same irony as the people who scream build the wall love going to Mexican restaurants. Who knows? It's like when people blame illegals for taking their jobs. No illegal took their job. Their shithead greedy American boss chose to let go of a citizen in lieu of exploiting cheaper labor. They are. For the same reason people shop at Walmart and Temu instead of local, it's cheaper for the consumer. Same reason why we are pressured to recycle while these mega companies continuously destroy the earth. Because THEREJOB creators. Those companies pay good money to control the culture and narrative, and put people against each other instead of against them. They are not demonized by anyone reasonable, so don't expect any logic. It's a similar psychology to the stigma of being a sex worker compared to a sex buyer. Should there be a legal difference between either? Probably not. Should there be a different level of penalty for being an undocumented worker vs an employer of undocumented workers? Probably not. We have centuries of history of defining who is considered in and who is stigmatized as outsiders. These are not easy stigmas to break. I am an immigrant to the US. I came from another OECD country. I have a green card. I have far less rights and legal protections than I did in my home country because of my status as an immigrant. USCIS had the right to ask me what form of protection my wife and I use when having sex. Not answering would have potentially jeopardized my green card approval. Imagine the injustice most citizens would feel if asked that same question by their government in order to remain in their home. It's a terrific irony, and maybe by design, that if you really wanted to stop illegal immigration, the best way would be to enforce companies giving them full workers' rights and benefits. Give them minimum wage, healthcare, get OSHA into their job sites, etc. And suddenly there's no financial incentives to hire an illegal immigrant anymore. The jobs dry up, and the incentive to move is drastically reduced. But they managed to get people twisted up enough that people don't see it. They didn't steal your job was given to them by somebody who could hire them for less compensation than they'd be legally required to give you. It's time to take a walk over to our Socialism 101. The discussions over there address a lot of questions like yours, and you'll be surprised at how much our education never allowed rational conversation about the basis of our economic system, and informed debate about alternatives that doesn't reduce to Cold War propaganda. The US hasn't faced up to the toxicity of our attitudes toward labor, and to how much we're willing to worship a system that turns people into a commodity, and that results in a wealthy class who wind up being ironically resentful and hostile toward the people whose labor made them wealthy. I've never understood that twist, how the people who have become super angry toward the have-nots. I could cut to the chase and say it's built into our economic system's need for a permanent underclass, but you should do some learning and come to your own conclusions. It's worth examining that phenomenon and understanding how the whole dang structure reinforces those attitudes. Because illegal immigration has a whole host of other issues involved that doesn't only involve taking jobs. Also, it's damn near impossible to find instances of people being paid under the table. There are 33 million business in America. I was paid under the table in high school by a moving company. Think about the man-hours it would take to sort through 33 million businesses and check their employment records, employees, their books, going to the actual job site, see who is working and if they are legitimately employed, etc. Also, I would assume most people that have a problem with illegal immigration also have a problem with the businesses that are hiring them. But trying to have oversight on the business that is hiring them is damn near impossible. The large companies can afford massive legal teams. It comes out cheaper to break the law, use illegal labor, and pay a fine here and there than to pay a fair wage to legal citizens. Because they are really not a problem that anyone wants to solve. They are props for political fundraising and generally spreading hatred.